Hello, everyone. Oliver Newman here, and unfortunately, I had some really sad news this past weekend. A good friend of mine, the second ROH champion and the all-round best, Xavier, has passed away. And the wrestling world and his friends and family have been in mourning ever since. For myself, I realised the best way to pay tribute to my friend would be a tribute show. So I've been putting together this show with different elements. I just want to say a huge thank you to Miss Xavier for allowing me her blessing to do this tribute show, as I really wanted to pay my respects to the great man, the all-around best, and always the all-around best, my friend Xavier. Hope you enjoy the show.
About an ROH OG. He was on the first show, Era of Honor Begins, an ROH legend, and somebody that doesn't get his just due, really. And add to that fact, it is his birthday today. Hope you're having a great birthday. Yeah, let's go back and talk about Ring of Honor OG and legend of the promotion, Xavier. So yeah, Xavier made his debut on the first show, Era of Honor Begins, in a match against Scoot Andrews, which I watched recently and thought it was very underrated. Kind of goes under the radar because of the matches on the card, especially the main event, triple threat match, which has gone down as one of the best triple threat matches in history. After this, he was a part of the ROH Road to the Title, where he lost to Amazing Red. But after this, he was granted an ROH title shot. He, with the help of Christopher Daniels, stole the ROH title, to put it bluntly, at ROH Unscripted. And then he joined the Prophecy. He defended the ROH title in good or very good or great matches against Jay Briscoe, AJ Styles, and my modern day favourite wrestler Paul London on 2 occasions. Once at Final Battle 2002 and once at the first anniversary show in 2003. As part of the Prophecy, he was an ROH Tag Team Champion at the same time as being an ROH champion, and he went on to lose those titles consecutively whilst suffering with 2 concussions to AJ Styles and Amazing Red and Samoa Joe, respectively. He left ROH for a short while to get over the concussions before returning in a big way at Death Before Dishonor, taking out Don and Marcos, everyone's favourite, tag team, the Ring Crew Express. He then went into the Field of Honor, where he started a feud with Hurricane John Walters. This is one of my favourite ROH feuds to this day. Simplistic, much like the Michael Shane Paul London feud was in 2002, which led to a crescendo. Paul London and Michael Shane was the street fight. For Xavier and John Walters, it was Fight Without Honor at Final Battle 2003. And even though it was a joint show between All Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor, this match stole the show, and was just a brilliant way to and end the feud with John Walters, who then was catapulted to the ROH Pure title. And then from there, he's made sporadic returns to ROH, once at Unscripted 2 against Bryan Danielson for the ROH World title in 2006. Then he was part of the 5-year festival in the Fatal 4-Way match on the 16th of the 2nd, 2007. It's been 12 plus years since Xavier's been in ROH. Highly underrated, one of the most hated champions of all time. Would be too concerned if we saw Xavier back. I think he would freshen up the product in a really good way. Just just by being him. With the 2 times the return, he's had welcome back chance. So for somebody who's so hated, maybe, just maybe, the ROH fans realised, with the time away, that they actually had somebody who was a great ambassador for the company. And in closing, with just over 30 seconds to go, we'd love to see you back in ROH, Xavier, and just to see you back in a wrestling ring, because you've been, in retirement or semi-retirement for the last 3 years. And hope you're having a fantastic birthday and you've enjoyed this ROH Star Spotlight. Unfortunately, a good friend of ours passed away this past weekend in the all-around best and the second ROH champion, Xavier. I've been given the absolutely RIP. I've been given the blessing of Mrs. Xavier to put together a tribute show, and with that, I've been reaching out to friends and colleagues. And today, I'm honoured to be joined by Xavier's trainer, the one and only Tony Devito. Hi, Tony. How you doing?
Oliver, what's going on, man? Yeah, it's thanks for having me on and being able to share a couple stories about Xavier.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for being on this. So kind of take us back to the beginning. We might be touching on the Carnage Crew interview we did together, but no mind about that. But what was it? What was like the experience the first time you met the all-around best?
So I can't remember how old he was. I would say he was like 15 or 16 at the time, and I guess he called me at first. Yeah, I'm a little foggy with all that, but he must have called me or a show. Somebody gave him my number. I forget exactly what the heck went on when I first met him, but he ended up coming up, and I trained him. I lived up in Newburgh, New York at the time. He lived in Queens, but he didn't drive. So that's the thing I remember most. He was, like I said, he was either 15 or 16. But he didn't have a car. You don't need a car in the city, so none of these guys had cars. So he ended up coming up to train with me, and he would take a train every Saturday up to Beacon, New York. I'd go pick him up at the train station. We'd go kick his ass for 3 or 4 hours, sometimes longer. And he'd go back, sometimes he slept over. We do, the whole weekend we did. And, so that's how I met him. That's how I met John, and he was just a little kid when I met him, man. I mean, I'm only, I guess, 5 or 6 years older, but he was just so young at that time. That's the thing I remember most that sticks out to me. And John would come up no matter what, snow, rain, it didn't matter. John was there. And I'm telling you, there's times that just the roof would leak and the inside of the ring would get wet and it was cold. So the ring would freeze on top. So we threw a tarp over it eventually, but it would freeze. And I used to have one of these old spring rings. It was a spring in the bottom. And I'm telling you, I think that thing would just freeze. And that was the hardest. Anybody that's worked in that ring will tell you that is the hardest bumping ring in the history of pro wrestling, I think. Funny story about Xavier. And so I know this for sure. I know it was a Jason Knight show up in Connecticut. And me and him wrestled each other that night. And this is before ECW, before Ring of Honor, of course, all that stuff. It might have been one of his first matches. I like I said, I really don't know the timelines, but so anyway, me and him wrestled that day, and we started doing some hardcore stuff, and I whacked him with a chair, and I guess I hit him pretty good, and I didn't know at the time because he said nothing. He was so quiet in the ring; he didn't talk anyway. He just did what you wanted him to do in the ring. He never spoke. I'm sure he was different later on, but back in these days, he just didn't speak. He just went with whatever you're doing. So I didn't even know there was anything wrong with him because he got right back up and everything seemed to be fine. But he made his comeback, and I want to say he gave me a drop kick off the top rope. He went to the top, but he gave me the old Dynamite Kid drop kick, where he landed on his back off the top rope and he smacked the back of his head on the canvas. So not only did he get a chair shot, he smacked the back of his head on the canvas after that too. I don't know which one he lost. He never lost consciousness, but he doesn't remember anything. So, and I don't know which one did it to him. It's probably a combination of both because he got the front whacked and then the back whacked, and his brain probably went nuts. But the funny thing is, like I said, I still had no clue. He said nothing. The finish must have came. We went to the back, and he brought. He met this girl. He must have only met this chick. I don't know how long beforehand, but this chick actually came with him to the show, and she's back there, and she went up to him after the match, and he comes up to me and he's like, Tony, who is this girl? She keeps asking me questions. Who is she? And I'm like, I don't know who she is, dude. You brought her with you. And he's like, no, I didn't. And we're arguing. And I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? And then I knew he was out of it. Like, he was just so out of it. Like I said, he never lost consciousness, but he was so out of it. But the best part is, he didn't know who this chick was, and neither did I. I felt horrible for her because I'm like, I don't know where you met this girl. It was pretty funny.
No, he shared those kind of stories in like voice notes and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the best stories that I got for him, man. Other ones I can't tell at all. But
can you tell them off there?
probably not. Probably not.
No.
It was way before anything else, but probably not.
No, appreciate the stories. I'm going to say 8th show. If they run
the 8th show. Okay, so I was definitely there. So yeah, I remember that night because I went up to Gabe and I had to put myself over. I was like, hey Gabe, you know I trained Xavier, right? And Gabe's like, no, I didn't know that. I said, well, I did, so just so you know.
Was there any kind of celebration between you guys and was it legal so you can talk about it?
I mean, I just give him a hug afterwards, you know, told him congratulations. I mean, listen.
Yeah, so you might have seen like some matches and stuff, and definitely in the ROH. Do you have like a standout match of his that you really enjoyed and kind of want to share?
His matches with John Walters were so good too, and I don't know if guys do remember that or not. I didn't see the ones he had with him later on, like when he came back, because then I was out of Ring Honor by that point. But I know the ones he had when I was there, they were good. And but all the matches he had were good. You know, he was a really good worker. You know, he can go out there. He could do all the different styles that he needed to do. You know, he could do technical. He could do high flying. He could do all that stuff. He could do hardcore. I mean, we beat him up every set. Him and Ralph Mosca would have matches in the, you know, I had a bunch of different places as I trained. We didn't stay in the building all that time. So I did have legit places. But him and Ralph would have matches. Ralph's a crazy bastard. So they'd wrestle their matches. They'd put each other through tables. Ralph would friggin' gig in a practice match. You know, Xavier's beating the crowd. I'm like, what the hell is going on with you guys? But they would go all out in a friggin' practice match. I'm like, you guys are friggin' nuts. But so he did all kinds of styles, dude. He mixed it all in there pretty well. You know, he loved doing table stuff, as we all know. He loved doing high flying, and he liked the hardcore stuff too. He really did. He liked it all, and he was good at all of it.
Yeah. No, I saw the Red music video, and he did the 450 off the ropes to the outside through a table.
Yeah.
So he definitely liked that, and he pulled it up beautifully.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously we know a lot about him as a wrestler. What was he like as a person? You know, to yourself.
He was always really pretty calm. You know, he was just a calm dude. He was pretty level-headed. He was a good dude, you know. I mean, for me, it was different. You know, I was his trainer, so I mean, he respected me. He never bad-mouthed or did anything like, you know, never not listened. You know, I think he was always a respectable guy, and that's what I always see about him. And he respected not just me, he respected everyone. You know, he showed that respect towards people, and that's what you're taught in this business, you know, to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he did it even without the business. That's just the way I think he was. You know, I know he's a pretty religious person too. You know, he was into Jesus and God and all that stuff. And, you know, he was loyal to his family. That I know also, you know, his son, you know, even his brother, man. Dude, it makes me so sad. Like I said, man, I knew him when he was a kid. I mean, I knew his parents. I knew his little brother. You know, they all knew who I was. His parents was very friendly to me, you know, and yeah, it sucks. I know his whole family, you know, and it's just it's sad for everybody. I never met his wife Paula, but you know, every time he'd post something about her, I'd see it and comment and this and that, you know, Facebook wise or whatever it may be. And so we don't know each other, but we know each other, I guess. You know, I feel you know, my heart goes out to all of them. You know, it's terrible. You know.
Yeah, it's the same with me. I didn't really interact with Mr. Xavier that much, but like he he like shaved his head, and I'll tell you this story because I don't think you'll know. He was getting ready for his comeback against Xavier, against Jay Lethal. See, even the pros make mistakes.
That's right.
He's ready, he was getting ready for his comeback against Jay Lethal, and he went and had a haircut and like shaved his head, with hair on top and stuff. And he did the same for his beard, and he recorded his wife's reaction, and she's going mad at him.
It's just hair grows back, or maybe not, or maybe not. So,
and he's like, well, I had to cut my hair, and yeah, she wasn't happy.
She didn't like it. Yeah.
And hopefully she doesn't mind me sharing this on here. But yeah, anything else you'd like to say to friends and family? You got any?
Yeah, like I said before, man, my heart goes out to them. John, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry you're gone. I'm sorry that we didn't talk again, before this happened, and I'm really sad for that. And I love you, man. I do. I love you. R.I.P., bro.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you're somehow able to watch this, Xavier, then know that everyone really, really cared for you.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's having amazing matches with Eddie Guerrero and Chris Candido up there.
I'm sure he is, man. I'm sure he is. So thanks, Oliver. I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much for your time. Honoured to be joined by the lady I met 15 years ago this November, the wonderful and delightful Simply Luscious.
Oh, thank you. Hello. How are you?
I'm going deaf because this is really loud.
Would you like me to talk quiet? Quiet.
No,
That's okay.
We've all tried that, haven't we? It didn't work out. So yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak to me. And yeah, I just wish it was in better circumstances. And going back to Xavier and stuff. Can you tell us about the first time that you met the all-around best?
It's when I was with the Prophecy in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They used to run over there, and I was with Steve Carino and Christopher Daniels, and then they brought Xavier in with us, and then Steve and I broke up in the storyline, and then I went with Xavier.
Yeah,
the all-around best.
And do you have like any thoughts and feelings like the first time you met him? What was he like as a person?
Oh, just pleasant, very nice guy, very respectful. Never well, of course you heard my speaking out thing. He's total opposite of that. He's just one of the few guys out there that are very nice to women, and I appreciated that. Very quiet, unlike me.
Favorite moments and memories or stories of the all-around best?
I think we're in Boston when I came out with him. Was it Boston? Oh my God, my dates are so horrible. And yeah, that's I Boston.
Was it Honor Invades Boston in 2002?
Was it?
Against Jeremy Lopez.
Yeah, I'm so horrible with dates.
No,
yeah,
you don't have to worry about having to have a good memory when you're talking with me. I know myself.
Yeah, that was probably my most fun moment with him, because I would valet for him, and I kind of didn't like it. I was like, I'm a valet, but now, I wish I just did more of that. My body's killing me.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I loved coming out with him. So
yeah, because that was on the same show when you offered Michael Shane.
Yep. Yeah, wow, you do have a good memory. Yeah, I used to be mad, and at a lot of things I would do, I'm like, I am not a manager. I'm not a valet. And then I'm like, this isn't so bad after all. I would just watch him do all the work and go get hurt. Just announce him and then come out, and I feel fine. So
No,
he was up there with like Candido. Like, you can't say I've never heard one bad thing about Candido.
no.
And that's the same with Xavier. I've never heard anything bad about him, you know. Never heard him like no stories. Oh, he went out and did this, and this. No, he's just quiet and did his job.
Yeah.
So I kind of started following him. I found him on Instagram, actually, because we hadn't talked in about probably since Boston. And then we found him and I talked to him. He's like, I'm married now. I'm like, I'm married too. I've got 2 kids. He's like, what? So yeah, I'm just really unfortunate. I wish I would have met his wife. She's gorgeous. I saw her pictures.
Yeah. No.
He was doing cage fighting too.
Yeah, he was doing MMA. Yeah, he's no. For myself, you said about connecting on Instagram. He listened to the podcast. He messaged me on Instagram. We exchanged numbers, and then he just like rang me on the same day. And you know, going from being a fan who obviously admired his wrestling ability into his like inner circle. And he went from like a wrestler who I admired into mine, and we exchanged like voice notes and texts and calls and stuff. And yeah, just talking about everything. Just like a really amazing friend, real pure, you know, friendship. I spoke to him on Saturday on the phone, and he passed away on Sunday, and it's like, what?
I know. I woke up and my husband was.
And then I just felt that the best thing to do would be to pay tribute to him. So this is where this kind of come from. Is there any other thoughts or memories or stories you'd like to share, or any comforting words you want to give to the family at all?
I'm just so sorry that happened, and he's a wonderful person, and I will always remember him. And I'm just so grateful for the time I did have and the memories I'll always have with him. Yeah,
absolutely. So thank you very much for taking time, mate. I'm really sorry you're emotional. I'll give you a virtual hug. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to me today.
So obviously there was hatred towards the all-around best and the second ever ROH champion Xavier. Did you like sense the hatred, and like looking back on it, what are we like 18 years later? Do you think that he was kind of underrated, maybe, as a champion and as a wrestler?
I thought he was a little bit underrated. Yeah, I think he kind of a little bit of a bad rap, because you go from, you know, Loki, who was really on everybody's radars, an all-star, and then you go to someone who's not really as well known. I mean, they could have, you know, picked, you know, someone like John Walters or Scoot Andrews or Slick Wagner Brown, or maybe someone like that who not everybody was really familiar with. But at that point, you got to try to, I guess you got to kind of give him a chance. And I think that he did a really good job in that role where, you know, he's got a lot of potential, but he also has a lot of help too. And, you know, you can tell that he's part of a group, but in a way he's sort of being used by that group in order to, you know, consolidate power. And I thought he, you know, athletic standpoint, you know, he held his own pretty well with, you know, Jay Briscoe and Paul London and AJ Styles. And, you know, I mean, he doesn't go down in history as really like a super worker in everybody else's eyes. But I thought, you know, for that time, I thought he acquitted himself really well as the champion. I'm kind of proud to say that he was kind of like my champion, you know, like during my time announcing it. I really always liked him as the champion.
Yeah, I completely agree from that situation. Like I said, the Paul London matches, they stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk about Ricky Steamboat a little bit earlier and stuff. You know, maybe Xavier and Paul London were the Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair of ROH at that time, maybe. And for me, the Xavier John Walters feud in 2003 was exceptional. I still love that feud this day. So yeah,
stuff.
Yeah. So you
Pick number 4 for me is going to be controversial, but controversy creates cash. Eric Bischoff trademark. So yeah, for me, it's going to be the second ever ROH champion and the all-round best Xavier. Bear with me, and I'll explain it. You had somebody in the company who was an OG from the era of Honor Begins, and was in matches and was under the radar, having good matches, but kind of needed an edge. And then he just cornered Loki, who was the champion at the time, and asked him for a title shot. That was granted because Loki is an honourable champion. Then in the title match at Unscripted, Xavier swerves everybody, joins the prophecy of Christopher Daniels, and wins the ROH World title in a really dishonourable, nefarious circumstance. And then from there, pretty much like the summer of Punk, everyone's trying to take the ROH ROH title at the time away from Xavier and the Prophecy. You've got Jay Briscoe had a non-title match and then a title match. AJ Styles had a go. You had obviously Paul London had 2 attempts at it, including these were tremendous matches where the fans were with bated breath begging for Paul London to win the title. So it kind of, and then that kind of went through, and then Xavier suffered a couple of concussions but still wrestled. So you've got the respect aspect of things before losing the title to Samoa Joe. And what's really interesting about our picks is they seem to kind of go into one. Like when you're talking about one champion, they lost it to the previous champion that we're talking about. So it's really interesting how that happens. Yeah. But with Xavier, he was under the radar and was like most hated ROH world champion. At the time, and until probably Matt Taven, he had good matches. The crowd hated him. In hindsight, being 2020, he deserves a lot more respect than he was given as ROH champion, because I would imagine the attendances either stayed the same or went up because they wanted him to lose. I would compare him to like the $1 Million Man of ROH, really, without the title for Ted DiBiase. But you kind of understand and respect him more after the event than at the time. So those Paul London matches in particular, I've watched them recently, and they are tremendous matches, and the crowd is molten and desperate for a title change. And as a heel, a dishonourable champion and one who uses nefarious tactics, you want the fans to hate you. And, Xavier got the fans to hate him. So job done.
I'm honoured to be joined by his long-time rival, Hurricane John Waters. Hi, John. How you doing today?
Oliver, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. This wrestling death has happened to a really good friend of mine, so it's hit me like a ton of bricks. But the best way forward is to do, a tribute, and with the blessing of Mrs. Xavier, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I just appreciate your time because, I'm a huge fan of the rivalry between you and Xavier. And Xavier always had a lot of wonderful thoughts about the rivalry. He always put you over, so to speak, in wrestling terms. So, yeah, just wanted to get you on here and just grab your thoughts on things. So, what was it like the first time meeting Xavier?
I think if I recall, I wrestled him on a show in Connecticut that wasn't Ring of Honor, and I think that's how we first met. I think it was just kind of a regular basic independent wrestling show. I don't remember the promotion's name, but it was in Connecticut, and we wrestled each other. And then because the match ended up going over so well, they ended up putting us together in Ring of Honor. And I just remember him always being in a good mood. I don't remember him ever being upset or cranky. I always remember him having the same mindset as me, that wanting to have the best match on the show every time. And I remember our Fight Without Honor match, how excited he was and how many ideas he was. It's like the second I got into the locker room, he was throwing all these ideas at me because that was the big show of the year and it was a blow off of the feud. So he really had, he really wanted to go out there and perform, and I think he really loved it. And there was no ego involved. He would sell like crazy. He would take the bumps for you, make you look like $1 million, and then you do the same for him, which is what opponents dash teammates when you're in the ring are supposed to do for each other. So I don't really remember the first meeting. I could be wrong, but I'm almost positive that it was an independent show outside of Ring of Honor.
Was you aware of the All Around Best before you actually met in the ring?
Yeah, my rookie year was in 2000, and I didn't start in Ring of Honor until either 2002 or 2003. So, and I don't remember what year Ring of Honor started. You probably know better than I do, but I remember early in my career, within the first year, I was watching some of those Ring of Honor tapes on VHS, because back then we had the VHS tapes, and I remember watching him and Low Key and Red. Sorry, my notification came on my battery. Red and Xavier and Low Key and those guys. I remember watching them not just in Ring of Honor, but the New York and New Jersey independents that were often tape traded, because we had a guy in my wrestling school who collected all the tapes, and he used to show me all these top independent guys, and he was always in there. So yeah, I knew who he was. And then when we wrestled each other, I think he was one of the first like big names outside of New England that I actually wrestled.
Yeah, absolutely. So
because that Fight Without Honor match was so memorable, and we took all those insane bumps, I think that's the one that really stood out for me the most. And especially now, I mean, what is this? 16 years later, 17 years later, it's hard to remember exact matches. Unless there's some big, event that happens in the match, like the Fight Without Honor match. So a lot of the other ones are kind of a blur at this point, especially if you're telling me I got hit with a chair left and right. I probably forgot most of it. So.
Well, for me, it was the match was you were wrestling each other, and then like you cheated to win, and what it was is like everything that he'd done, like in the tag match with you and Tony Mama Luke against him, Nigel, he cheated to win, and he cheated to win.
Yes.
Then you got the win at War of the Wire, but he got some like comeuppance at the end when he kind of hit you with the chair, which led to the final battle, Fight Without Honor. So just a beautiful feud. It's one of those that if Ring of Honor ever does like a rivalry set, unfortunately we can't get Xavier on it, but those matches and that feud is revered by me. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was kind of unexpected too, the way we meshed. It was kind of this Boston versus New York feud, and he was this jerk that didn't want to shake hands, and I was kind of the the rookie who was trying to be the pure wrestler at the same time, respecting the rules, shaking the hands, the code of honor, and all that stuff. And I took it personal that he wasn't playing by the rules. And then after that Fight Without Honor, when he shook my hand, I think that was kind of the payoff too. And then after that, we had kind of went our separate ways.
Absolutely. So, what was Xavier like as a person outside the ring?
Like I've written on Facebook, no bad thoughts at all. And like I said, he always would keep in touch. Almost every Christmas, I'd get a text from him. We would chat maybe periodically, a few times a year. Nothing too consistent. But then,
is there anything you'd like to say to the family and friends at this time? Would you like to pass on some well wishes and
sure,
stuff?
I mean, obvious condolences and gratitude for meeting the guy, being able to perform with him. And his death definitely touched a lot of people. I know Prince Nana and I were talking, and he said he was crying like a baby for days. And a couple of my other friends said they pull over their cars and started crying. So he was obviously very well liked. This isn't something you just say part of a tribute and blow smoke up somebody's ass so the family feels good. These are real true feelings. So for his wife and kid, what can you say? What can you say? Time will heal, hopefully, and hopefully they can look back at not just the tributes, the matches, the memories, the things people have written, and take some comfort knowing that he was a good man and people respected him. And that legacy is with him forever, and that's not something anybody can take away. And it's sad, it's unfortunate, everyone's hurting from it, but while we're here, we can make a mark in a positive way. That's what we can do, and he did that. So
Yeah,
the thing that I was looking forward to the most about the past versus present was seeing guys like him and Lethal and the Briscoes, guys I haven't seen in a long, long time. Obviously, performing in a Ring of Honor ring again 13 years later would have been cool, but seeing these guys that you shared the ring with over a decade ago and performing on the same show is kind of surreal. So the camaraderie that you have with people is a big part of wrestling, and that's something that kind of gets forgotten in the spotlight and fame and all that stuff. But the guys that you worked with to get to the position you're in always hold a special place in your heart, and when one passes, it's almost like a part of you leaves. So
yeah. I think the best way to kind of end this and stuff is when like past versus present was coming round and like Paul London was added as well, and you were added to the card. He turned round to me and in a message, kind of tongue in cheek, said all my enemies are in the same place at the same time.
Yeah. I love it. But that character he portrayed, he was the opposite.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's wrestling character and the real man. We're two completely opposite things. But I thought you'd get a kick out of that, so I thought I'd hear it. But yeah, like I said, your feud has stood the test of time. It's still being talked about and revered all these years later, John. And you create magic. So if that's what you both remembered for, then you haven't done too badly at all, have you?
Yeah, I agree. That's what I certainly do remember about him.
I was under different circumstances, but I am honoured to be joined by Chris Devine. Chris.
Okay, how you guys, everybody doing?
Yeah, it's a difficult time. I knew Xavier for a year personally, and he had such an amazing impact in my life. And you go, way back with Xavier. So, in order to pay tribute to him, can you tell us about the first time you met Xavier?
Sure. It's a funny story because we had gotten booked by Frank Goodman, and we were in Long Island, New York. We sat across from each other, and he just kept staring at me. I'm like, what is this guy's problem? So I just had a match with Joel Maximo, and there was a singles match because at that time, my tag partner was too young, and so was his brother. So we did singles for a while, and fresh out of like training at Mikey's, but we started to get our feet wet. And I remember Xavier staring at him, like, what's your problem? He goes, bro, who trained you? And I go, Mikey Whipwreck. And I said, who trained you? He said, Tony Devito. I said, well, my trainer's better than yours. And he's like, no way, bro. He's like, anyway, you need some new clothes. So I'm like, who is this guy trash bagging me here, But after that, we would see each other a lot on the independent circuit and keys to the gym. So Xavier would constantly be like, let's go train. It'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd be like, you fucking serious right now? And he's like, yo, bro, let's go. I'm like, all right. And we would take midnight drives. I'm talking about a 40-minute drive to the place where Mikey didn't know like we were going in. We would pop open the school. We'd hit the ropes, put that music full blast, and there'd be like 10 guys in the ring at 3 o'clock in the morning using turnbuckles. So I think that when I see and remember my friend, or our friend, should I say, that's the vision I always have him being that playful guy.
Yep. Is there any stories you want to share away from the ring that you can share legally?
There's a lot of stories. I mean, one thing, like I said, Xavier just had this thing where even in like regular life, he was the guy that when we would show up to the gym, the girl at the juice bar, the guys that were all working out, like just to get to wherever routine we would start. Let's say we're doing biceps, like he'd give like pound to like 20 guys before he got there because the guys like, hey, Xavier's here, like, yo, what's up, bro? And he didn't shy away. I mean, he really would go into the gym. He'd smile. He had this persona where He was very friendly. And I think that also, it's the thing, you can't separate the two. A wrestler being in the ring and outside of the ring. You have to be who you are 24/7 in order, because that is really who he was.
Yeah.
And you can't separate the two personas. If you saw him in the ring, that is how he lived life. He worked a lot of like odd jobs at night. He busted his ass. He did the best he could for his son, his wife. I mean, we would go on countless hours of just talking things. I think one of the things that fans also needed to know is that Xavier was a strong man of faith. And the reason why I bring that up is because he believed, and I think that this is where his cockiness was perceived sometimes. He was bold, but because he knew he was protected by God. Because he prayed to him constantly, he asked for guidance. He wasn't afraid to talk about his faith. If he saw someone down, he would go up to them and say, brother, what's going on? You know what? This is my belief. You don't have to believe it, but this is what I know works. And I think that if fans needed to know something about him, even if they could apply in their own lives, was that he was a man of men, and the Jesuits believe in that. I believe in that. So when we talked about God, I mean, to understand our conversations, my ring name, Chris Devine, Xavier hated it. Mikey hated it. Everyone I knew hated it. But it was never a moniker of me. It was more of me tricking the fans and saying Christ is divine. Because the name, that's where it came from. And once I explained that to him, it was my way of giving back to God. And I hate to make this like a whole religious thing, but you have to understand that was who we were. When we stepped, we prayed before our match, and we went out there, we did the best we could as warriors, and we came back and we gave thanks that, we come home safe. For me, I remember one time Xavier hid my gear, like he hid as I never wear boots, I always wore shoes, I always wore like wrestling shoes,
Yeah.
I always liked the chain wrestling more. So for me, I always felt like with boots I would slip. Anyway, he hid my fucking shoes. One time, my music's hidden, and I'm like, where the fuck are my shoes? Like, he's just rolling and rolling and rolling. But in that same aspect, I had gotten called to go to Puerto Rico. My father had gotten sick, and I remember that Puerto Rico schedule was we were wrestling 5 days a week. And I remember I was like, damn, Xavier, I don't have enough clothes. I don't have enough ring time. I want to be wearing the same 3 outfits. And Xavier's like, look, man, come over here. He gave me literally brand new tights that he had just purchased. And the problem is that those tights were also tights that he really held on to. Those were some of his matches at the Pool London. Some of his matches, like the ones from Doug Williams, like he really, really got into it. That character, like that part of him meant so much. So for him to give me that as I left to Puerto Rico, it was like, brother, I'm with you. Here, just take this with you, to take whatever you need and just be successful.
And do you have a favorite moment, memory, or story about Xavier?
To know that how he was so bent on being the best. I know that keeps something I keep bringing back up. I remember I had a valet. She would walk me to the ring at ICW, and one of my favorite wrestlers. One of them was the way Shane Douglas did things. I think his psychology was so amazing. I watch it. So my match against Red, I would bring out that valet, and then that night the match was over for ICW. And the next week I didn't have his valet, and I'm like, where the fuck did my valet go? So I'm talking to the promoter. I said, she's not with me. He goes, no, I'm giving her to Xavier. And I look at Xavier and I go, well, how do you have my fucking valet now? How do we explain this? He goes, dude, I need the world belt. That was his mentality. Like, he thought to get over more, he would just take my valet. And just like he was that guy. And you know what? That moment like that, I mean, that solidified, like, you motherfucker, I was like, I gotta get him back. And I did some at times, but I think that, and I hate that, these are things that just run in my mind at night, just thinking about him. To me, the biggest thing was how he wanted to be perceived sometimes to the general public, but most of all, I think for me, the father that he was. I think that he loved Christian, and I was there when things were going on, and Xavier and having his son, and how mentally no man is prepared to have their kid. Their first time, you're scared. But Xavier was the guy that stepped up to the plate and wanted the best for his son. Same thing with his wife. I mean, this is why I asked for permission. His wife, he loved her. Like I've never seen another man love his wife. I mean, I personally know Xavier running all through New York, picking up 1,000 numbers in the night. You know what I'm saying? He was that guy. He had that. He was arrogant that women just came on to him. And when he met Paula, that all ended. Like he cut it short, and that was it. This is his woman, and he would do anything for her.
Yeah. No, the all-around best isn't just like a tagline for him.
I would call him the all-around average, just to fuck with him. But he was always better than me in that sense.
Certainly.
His wife has entrusted that you'll do the best. You're the only person she's given approval to. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and last thing I do want to say is I want to thank a lot of the guys that he did put over and he loved. Scott Demore. There was just so many guys. I mean, that he would just talk about, but he loved working like Sheldon in New England area. Those are promoters that he obviously Rob Feinstein, Ring of Honor, Gabe. He just wished that like I said, that he could do them right and allow him to do his thing. And he would always tell them thank you. Just the last thing he would say is thank you for what you guys did give him, and he did the best what he could with it. Loki will have stories. I mean, him and Loki were tight also. He loved just being around Loki. He loved his matches with Loki. Same thing with John. Walters. Like I said, I don't know the Walters, but he would rave about it to me. All these kids are great. This kid is awesome. He brought it. I would bring it back. Again, for me to know these gentlemen, I've never met myself. It just spoke in volumes of how Xavier was with you. Our matches, there was a three-way dance that me and him had with Matt Stryker for, I believe, for ICW USA Pro, and that was a funny match for us because he didn't want to lose the belt. He didn't want to lose the belt. He didn't want me to have it. So we bickered. We bickered for a long time over who was better than him. I think that one of the things that I would want to people visualize with Xavier was that he had this thing like when we were calling out, like we were in our matches and we were getting ready mentally and prepared. And he'd come up to me and he'd go, "What are you doing tonight?" And I go, "And list some moves that I want to do." I go, "Why?" And he goes, "Because we want to make sure you don't hit the 450. Now he fucking knew. He knew I couldn't do this move, but it was one of those things that he prided himself on his moveset. Like, his kiss your ex goodbye. I was there when he, created this shit. And I just laughed at him. I said, "Why would you name it that?" He goes, "Well, because that's who I am. This is what I do, like this is it." He's like, "Oh, that's gonna be my new finisher." And like he was the first person after in Devito was training him could hit a 450. Like early, I'm talking about was his 97, 98, when no one was hitting this move. Like, and he would get so hot when someone started doing all his shit. He's like, "Look at him, he's stealing all my stuff. He's stealing all my Xavier, not your stuff. Like, you don't own the move." He goes, "Dude, it's my move." He said, "I'm gonna walk around." He's like, "You're mad because you don't do any moves." I go, "Xavier, come on, bro." He said, "I did every move in the book." And he goes, "Yeah, but that's my move. That's my thing." I mean, it was one of the things that he took ownership and took pride in what he created, you know. And that was it. I think that was one thing I wanted to bring up. So
Yeah.
you can.
And yeah, as you've seen with my best of Bret the Hitman Hart, I wanted to do a best of second ROH champion, the all-round best, my friend Xavier. So in this instance, though, I'm going to go with 5 matches of Xavier. So number 5 is a match against the phenomenal AJ Styles from the ECWA, East Coast Wrestling Association 2002 Super 8. So yeah, like I said, this is from the prestigious Super 8, you know, the who's who have won that tournament. It's a really good match, like a kind of a sprint, mirror images of each other. No one, you know, kind of doing a one-upsmanship kind of match. And yeah, just really, really well put together. It's even better than the ROH match at Night of the Butcher. And it's understandable why this match is one of Xavier's favourite matches of his career. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. Number 4 is a match against Loki. I spoke to Xavier about this match. Lots to love. It's a ladder match in the Elks Lodge in New York, which is, you know, he's the King of Queens, so it's one of his favourite venues. The ladder walk to reverse the Dragon Sleeper of Loki is just a thing of beauty. You know, there's power bombs onto the ladder, which are absolutely brutal. You know, Xavier's Arabian Press is up there as one of the most amazing moves in professional wrestling, and he pulls it off beautifully. You know, jumping from the top rope to the rope and springboarding backwards onto Loki. It's absolutely incredible. I love the almost ending. The belt comes down, and then the key crusher onto the ladder is crazy. The risks they're taking for the title, the ICW title, is astounding. All of their peers are watching on, which shows you like it's a curtain sellout. Everyone's loving the match, and I love the ending, the aftermath. Xavier throwing up the X like he's known to do, rather than shaking Loki's hand. So yeah. The third match that I've chosen is from ROH, Bitter Friends, Stiffer Enemies. It's a number 1 contenders trophy match against Christopher Daniels as the prophecy explodes. This is a truly awesome match. It's well wrestled. Xavier, you know, gets the body part and goes after Christopher Daniels' neck. Daniels in turn goes after Xavier's ribs, and you know they fight aggressively, trying to use that advantage to their advantage. Sorry. And in the end, the match that's been beautifully wrestled comes down to cheating, as you knew it would. And like, who can cheat and get away with it? And yeah, in all honesty, this is just top notch heel versus heel professional wrestling. To a T. If you want to know how to wrestle that style of match, then this is what you should be watching. Absolutely amazing. Number 2, as we've talked about on this tribute, is against Hurricane John Walters. The feud itself is simplistic and it's beautifully told. It's Boston versus New York. It's a blue chip babyface versus an arrogant, boastful heel. Xavier had cheated his way to victories, you know, in a tag match, in a singles match, and then John Walters got a little bit of comeuppance at War of the Wire, but the violence after the match kind of led to this, and it's ROH and All Japan Pro Wrestling Final Battle 2003. Walters is after respect. He wants the code of honor to be followed, but Xavier kind of spits in the face of that. And yeah, after a brutal fight without honor, Xavier finally reneges and shakes Walters' hand, which is something he didn't really do in ROH. During his heel run and stuff. So it'd been a long time since he shook anyone's hand, and to shake John Walters' hand was kind of a sign of respect and a sign that this guy was, the next big thing in ROH. And he went on to win the Pure title. So, absolutely amazing. And the number one match that I've gone for, I promise there's no bias involved, even though it's my modern day favourite wrestler. The reason for this is obviously Xavier's the King of Queens, and this is in the Elks Lodge in Queens, New York. So Paul London came so close to winning the ROH title at Final Battle 2002, hitting the shooting star press, but still being pinned. He has to go through two top contenders in the phenomenal AJ Styles and Low-Ki in this number one contenders trophy match. It's an excellent triple threat match. All out balls to the wall action. And, Xavier's scouting the match. After the match, this is supposed to be the main event, but Xavier's having none of it. He demands that their title match happens right now. And London's not one to back down from a challenge. In the end, he puts up a hellish fight. He kicks out the 450, which is something no one's ever done. And Xavier was very proud of that, in conversations that I had with him. And and Xavier would go on to cheat to win. And, like one of his heroes, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Trademark Eddie Guerrero. So, if you want to check out 5 top matches of the all-around best, then I recommend AJ Styles from the 2002 ECWA Super 8 tournament, Low-Ki ladder match, Christopher Daniels from Bitter Friends, Stiffer Enemies, John Walters, the feud in general, but definitely the fight without honor, and Paul London. You can't go wrong with either match from Final Battle or the 1 year anniversary. But if you really want a molten crowd and a wrestling fan base that truly hate their champion, then well, actually, in both matches, Philadelphia, they hated him too, and definitely in Queens, even though it's his hometown, they hated him too. So this series of matches shows why he was the all-around best, and he always will be. So,